Welcome back to my Chaos Dwarf series, where I'm making, or at least trying to make, a Chaos Dwarf army for one-page rules regiments, or Warhammer the Old World. But on the cheap. This is episode 2. After building and painting some great weapon-wielding dwarfs in the first episode, I wanted to make something more, well, chaotic. These are Chaos Dwarfs, after all. Traditionally, Chaos Dwarfs have several animal amalgams. Bull centaurs, Lamassu, and Great Taurus are all sizable options. But the unit from One Page Rules' Havoc Dwarf list that seemed easiest to pull off was the Dwarf Centaur. A horse-like body with a dwarven torso. Luckily, my local game store had this box of centaurs from RDG Games for like $20. Very solid deal. I could certainly have used any number of horse minis, but this kit, coupled with the Oathmark Dwarf Infantry box, made life a bit easier for very little cost per model. After assembling the horse part of the model and hacking a dwarf body in half, I determined that I needed to shave down the horse neck, body area to make the fit a little better. Then attach the dwarf torso to the horse part. To fill out the gap that was left between the two kits I was using, and making the two halves look like they belonged together, I whipped out the green stuff. After smashing a little worm of the epoxy putty into the gap, I smoothed it out onto the rest of the model, and sculpted some hair similar to the existing hair on the back of the horse section. I probably spent more time than necessary doing this, as I ended up covering it with texture anyways, but it was good practice regardless. In one-page rules regiments, these dwarf centaurs carry great weapons, much like the Immortals from the first episode in this series. So I grabbed the same dwarf heavy infantry kit from Oathmark, stole some of the two-handed weapons, and started slapping them onto these angry little centaurs. As always, the dwarf infantry box included several head options. I picked the ones with little hats or a lack of hair, basically the ones that seemed the most fitting for these grumpy little half-dwarf, half-horses. Heavily armored heads just didn't seem to match the vibe I was going for. Drop these dudes onto some bases, hose them down with primer, and we were ready to paint. As I have been for the past several weeks, these dudes were all painted with oil paints. I've been having a ton of fun smushing paint around, creating very impressionistic results. Sometimes with more refinement than others, always very quickly. And once again, because I've been having so much fun, we've all got precious little time to hobby. Doing it in any way you don't enjoy is really the only way to do it wrong. I'll continue to unabashedly showcase ways I enjoy painting, even if the end result isn't always what would traditionally be considered good. And I'll keep filming them with a macro lens, getting way closer than anyone would actually ever look at them, just to show that it does not matter. Paint how you enjoy, whether that's quick, slow, all dry brush, speed, or contrast paints. It doesn't matter. And please, never let anyone's subjective idea of quality prevent you from painting your little war dollies in the way you enjoy. Don't compare yourself to anyone. To quote Theodore Roosevelt, comparison is the thief of joy. Anyways, thanks for attending my TED Talk. To start these freaks off, I slopped some fairly heavily diluted raw umber all over the horse section. Then used a shop towel to dab some paint off of the areas I wanted a bit brighter. I'm using high quality oil paints, and the heavy pigmentation allows for this heavy dilution without the paint sort of breaking down. Then I similarly used burnt sienna to cover the upper dwarven bodies, just as I had done with the Immortals in the first episode of this series. To start mapping in some shadows, I grabbed ivory black and began smushing it into the areas I wanted darker, like armor, armpits, and the back of the head, as well as the weapon heads, and the hair on the horse section. Although I'm working quite quickly, this does involve some back and forth. Adding the black, dabbing some off with the shop towel, reapplying the burnt sienna and black, until I'm fairly happy with where those hues are at. And when I was fairly satisfied with where everything was, I started smashing in some Prussian blue to the upper-facing armor surfaces and the heads of the weapons. I find this creates some interesting contrast while giving the impression of reflective surfaces, as though the armor and weapons were reflecting the blue sky above and the browny red dirt below. Obviously not in any kind of realistic way. As I said earlier, impression is the name of the game. I'm just looking to create an impression of the thing, rather than a realistic replication. It's the way I currently enjoy painting with oils, so I'll continue to ride this train. Once I was content with the buildup of hues, I grabbed titanium white to start adding more detail to the areas I wanted the eye to land on. By selectively highlighting details and creating brighter, more contrasted areas, we can effectively decide where the eye is drawn to. This allows for very quick results that can be quite striking. Each of these dudes, for instance, took about 7 minutes or less to paint. After slapping some burnt sienna, followed by some drops of black, onto the bases, I set them aside to dry. I like to set the models to the side for a few days, then come back to them with fresh eyes to determine if they truly are done. This time, a single model stuck out to me. I had done a much more yellow beard on the one little fellow, which created a nice contrast to the rest of the mini. So I decided to add some more color to a few of these fellas' beards, grabbing some yellow ochre and applying it to the beards of some of these horse-like dudes, followed by a little white to add some highlights. Then some victory laps around the base rims, and I was happy to call these freaks done. Another unit of Chaos Dwarves ready to destroy their enemies on the field of battle. I had a bunch of fun cutting and slapping these little freaks together, and it's given me some more ideas for future additions to this army. Continuing down this oil painting journey has really helped me lean into this sort of impressionistic style more than I felt like I could with acrylics, and I'm having so much fun. Are the results quote-unquote good? Who cares? Paint how you enjoy, and to hell with anyone who says otherwise. I hope you've enjoyed these dwarf centaurs. If you did, consider leaving a like. Apparently YouTube likes that sort of thing. Most importantly though, thanks for watching. You are awesome.